I think if you're young growing up in America today, it's pretty difficult to feel optimistic about literally anything in the future, from retirement to owning a house to like all these things seem in many cases quite unachievable. Speaking of Gen Z, as I was going to say, saw a conjunction of polls recently. Look at how Gen Z is doing. Salaries Americans say they consider the minimum to be financially successful. That's quite a gap, huh? Lot of young people with some wild expectations out there. It makes me wonder what Gen Alpha is going to say. You know, when they're sort of admitted into the polling format. That's crazy. Huge disparities. Gen Z is correct though. They kind of are. Honestly, I don't really blame them. There was this other poll too. Long-term survey asks U.S. 12th graders, how important is money and wealth? U.S. teen culture is shifting today, and we've seen an upward trend since 2016. How interesting. Where wealth has been increasingly important to them. I can't really blame them, you know? There's basically like nothing in the world for you, or at least nothing that's guaranteed or tangible or expected unless you have money anymore, you know? Even if you were relatively poor, if you lived in like a small American town in 1948 or some shit, it's like, okay, you've got church, you've got like local community stuff that you can go to. You know, you can get out of high school, then go work for your dad in a local small business or something like that. There's no longer any local culture or any like social tie to hang on to. It's just like, can you afford to do cool things? And everything's so expensive these days, you know? Basically everything's been commodified. It's kind of like, you know, maybe 50 years ago, if you live in an area that's near a river, you could just go take a boat to the river, like a little paddling boat. But now it's like, oh, you know, boat rentals. There's stuff like that all over the place, where all the little things you used to be able to do to just like have fun or move around has gone from being free or quite affordable to being relatively expensive. Now, we have more stuff to do than ever before, and there are a lot of creature comforts that are quite inexpensive relative to the median income. But I think this also reflects a general lack of faith in the stability of the future. Like, people in Generation Z don't think things are going to hold up, you know? That's probably why you see a downward trend with boomers over here having the lowest expectation of wealth for what it means to be financially successful. They're on their way out. Whether or not the economy is unstable, they only have to hold it together for so much longer. People in Gen Z, they're like, no, man, the crash could come any day now. You need to have a big cushion. 100K a year is enough to qualify for federal housing assistance in California. Well, yes, in major American cities, oftentimes 100K a year is actually genuinely not that much. I know this is like a frequent subject of Twitter discourse where somebody will be like, you know, help me budget my finances. I make $112,000 as a consultant and I can't make rent in New York City. And it's like, yeah, depending on where you are in New York City, that could be nowhere near enough. Yeah. In most of the country, you'll be fine. But in some pockets of it, yeah. No one's living paycheck to paycheck with 100K, the real talk. Literally tens of millions of people are living paycheck to paycheck with 100K, actually. It's a pretty wide range. Keep in mind, we don't all live in the same America. Imagine if one of you guys is like, yeah, I'm living paycheck to paycheck on 30K a year. And then some guy in India who makes $80 a week is like, you're living paycheck to paycheck from 30K a year? What are you doing over there? And it's like, okay, quickly racing through my mind to think of a stereotypical Indian name, but deciding not to settle on one. You know, we have different living expenses. Yeah, 30K a year will get you a lot in India or the Philippines or whatever. But like I just said, lack of faith in the future. Yeah, my dad makes 125K a year, but he lives on Long Island, so he's paycheck to paycheck most of the year. Yeah, Long Island. Do you think part of the Gen Z outlook is because they all grew up watching YouTubers and streamers making ridiculous money while also trying to downplay their wealth to not seem out of touch? No, because if that was the case, they wouldn't have a good mental framework for how much. Big YouTubers and streamers don't usually talk about how much money they make. I don't think that's really any different. People grew up watching TV where they saw actors who make even more money on average than a lot of the influencers they watch today. Not everyone is watching the Paul brothers or Kai Cenat or whatever. There are plenty of people who are just consuming a wide range of media. You think the cavalcade of grind set videos get rich quick in the vein of Andrew Tate also plays a role in this? I mean, maybe to an extent, but even with those lofty targets, 71% of Gen Z respondents said they expected to achieve financial success in their lifetimes more than any other age groups. Well, that's any other age group. That's nice. I'm glad they believe in themselves at least. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's kind of a sad statistic, and I don't think it's Gen Z's brain being cooked or anything. I think it's a pretty predictable response to a great deal of economic anxiety. And not using that term in like a disingenuous 2016 kind of context. I mean it literally. Like, I think if you're young growing up in America today, it's pretty difficult to feel optimistic about literally anything in the future, from retirement to owning a house to like all these things seem in many cases quite unachievable. Not everyone can be. Not everyone can be what? Plus climate change? Yeah, if you believe in it. Yeah, I've met a lot of people that are just burnt out and want to live carefree with that money. Burnt out and you're in Gen Z? That happened quickly. Again, can't really blame them. Not much to feel optimistic about. What do you think my thoughts are, Haunted Toast? Use your head. I just, like, in the long run, everything that is leading to these demographic shifts, like a feeling of anxiety about the future of the economy, all of that's going to get worse under Trump. There are a lot of, like we just saw them, a lot of like Trump supporting Gen Z, a lot of Trump supporting Gen Z. A majority of men in Gen Z voted for Trump. And it's only going to get worse with time. Economic anxiety is usually a precursor for fascist radicalization because grifters get to you and tell you that it's like Mexican immigrant workers picking, you know, apples off of trees for $4 an hour or something. Of those who did vote, loquacious. Can't blame them for that either, Benjamin. Can you imagine being young and like genuinely giving a shit about Kamala Harris getting elected? If you're not that politically checked in, the Democrats really have not given you much reason to believe there's much of a relationship between like who wins and what happens to the economy. Where's Kamala, by the way? Well, she has no personality and leads no one. So after she lost, she just kind of went quiet again. Unlike Bernie Sanders, who continued to be active and loud and vocal after he lost because he represents a broader movement, she literally like went off on vacation and then like hasn't done anything because no one cares. You don't know what doomer means, real Coke. Your misuse of the term frustrates me. Light Virus, have you been listening at all? Yes? Then you know the answer. It really is shocking how much of Gen Z, the most progressive generation, voted for Trump. They're not the most progressive generation, like definitionally. And it shouldn't be disheartening because, again, like it should only be disheartening if you're operating in the assumption that young people are just naturally going to be more progressive. You know, why assume that, right? Which generation is the most progressive? Millennials. Really? Yes? That is not true, Titty Queen. Why are millennials the most progressive? I'm just going to mute you. I feel like sometimes you guys really make me feel like I'm talking to a like Chat GPT, where I will do like a whole argument and through line, and then when I'm on point 4, people will just ask me like to substantiate the earlier points made. You got to work on that. Sometimes I really, really do feel like I'm talking to Chat GPT. I don't know if it's like real or resentment is building as more workers feel stuck. A sharp contrast to the heady days of 2022, that's recent, when employees were quitting their jobs at record high rates, open roles proliferated, and the possibility of a higher paycheck just always seemed. You are quite literally on the hamster wheel in the image, but you're also on the hamster wheel conceptually, because like all of the problems that we're experiencing right now were also the case back in 2022. Economists love to focus on this like the very superficial stuff, like unemployment rates ticking up and down a percentage point, or you know, inflation doing this or that, when in reality, like where there are large undercurrents, you know. It would be like not paying attention to climate change and the rise of global temperatures, because the average planetary temperature fluctuates with the seasons every 6 months, you know? So you're like, oh, sure, maybe there's like a rise on the slope, you know, but at the same time, we're kind of focusing on the zigzagging up and down on the sine wave. Number of job openings in December was 7.4 million, decline of 1.9 million for the previous year. That's still higher than 2019. You ever get the feeling that a lot of job openings are just fake? Like a company will post fake job listings that people send resumes into, but they never respond or care about them. because they just want to gather resumes and also make it look like their company is growing. They literally are. There's data on this. Well, there you go. Yeah, they actually have openings to get a tax benefit. It's only going to get worse. They do it to train AI now as well. Yeah, I get like buffeted with those ads on Twitter. Like I've seen a million of them where it's like, why personally vet your employees when AI can do it? And you wonder why Gen Z is super, super, super pessimistic about their, their ability to have a good future unless they're getting an obscene paycheck. Staggering 70% of jobs currently listed are considered ghost jobs. Ah, that's cool. Can confirm. Been looking for work for 8 months now. Gotten 4 interviews after 300 applications. It's never been this bad. Sheesh. I don't think a lot of people even understand what would make them happy these days, apart from having more money. I don't think people have like a good mental or emotional metric for what happiness looks like outside the context of workplace success. Cigna got busted for using AI to mask deny insurance claims. Busted as in there were consequences, or busted as in it was found out they were doing that? I have 0 hobbies, but TBH, that might just be me. That's not good. You should have some hobbies. It's pretty important. You know, it's really f***ed up. You know how there are old people who are like, man, when I was really young, I had no money, but I had time and energy. Then, when I was middle-aged, I had money and energy, but no time. And now that I'm old, I have money and time, but no energy. I can't do any of the things I want to do. And it's like, how are you bored? I feel like there are a lot of old people who spent their entire lives doing nothing but house rearing or work. Don't you have any hobbies at all? Like, any? I feel like I enjoy being 30, and I'll probably, when I'm 60, I'll want to be 30 again because, you know, of how my body works and everything. But I feel like even if I was 70 or 80, there would still be things that I would do that I would enjoy. I don't know. A lot of people, it feels like they just don't develop hobbies. A lot of boomers legit live to work. It's their whole identity. It's really sad. Yeah, it's really f***ed up. I don't even know how much of a parallel you see from this in countries where people on average work more often. Like going back to India or the Philippines or whatever, there are lots of poor people there who work pretty relentlessly, but I feel like they have a developed local culture of familiar relation and like neighborhood friendliness, and, you know, they value a lot of crafts. So it's like, even as you get older, there's still cool things that you do. I don't know. Vosh picking on my Indian cousins again. Oh, if you weren't like 7 IQ, you would have picked up that I was making a complimentary statement.